Hello, my name is Michael Roble, and I have spent 30 years in the industry working for every business unit from municipal to steel mills to oil and gas. And these videos are my way to show people of various levels of experience how to use Revit, and even toss in lessons learned from projects over the years. With that said, let's get to it. In this video, we're going to take a look at steel columns and steel framing, and we'll use them to build a 12 by 20 platform. In the concrete framing video, we relied on column grids for placement, but in this scenario, we're going to place everything manually so you can clearly see the differences in workflow. Steel columns and beams use the same settings and justification options that concrete members have. The key distinction is that with concrete, you almost never deviate from top and center justifications. With steel, those justification settings matter a lot more, and you'll need to pay close attention to them as you build out the structure. So as you see here at elevation 0, I drew a rectangle to represent what would be my column grids basically for where I want the columns to be, to set the tone for the whole platform. So I got this rectangle. I'm going to go to the structure tab, the structure panel, and click on column. And I'm going to put it in as a 10 by 49. I want to go over here. I want to set this here for height, and I want to constrain it to elevation 12. So now when I put this in, I'll put one on the end, I'll put one on the middle, and I'll put one here on this end. I'll put one down here, put one in the middle, and put one over here. Now if you look in 3D, you can see your columns are already in place. Now here we are at elevation 12. This is the top of the beams. So now I'm going to go up to the structure tab. I'm going to go to the structure panel, and I'm going to click on beam. I'm going to put in a W10 by 22. And I also know that the size of this structure, these beams and columns are way oversized. So any structural engineer out there, I know. So we're going to go ahead and start placing these in here. You could turn on 3D snapping, and you could put these in 3D view, but you're going to have to set what elevation it's automatically going to be assigned to. Here you have your usage. Typically I just put these as other, unless I have a specific need to categorize them and filter them out. Here we could say chain, which means that if you click on here on this column and click on the midpoint of this column, and now you can click on the midpoint of this column, it will just keep going. If you have this disabled, if you click on here then click on here, you're done. You have to like restart. So you have to hit escape, pick middle, and pick here. So like I mentioned in the concrete framing, you kind of want to go in the same direction, because what it will do is it'll put your starting connection over here, your ending connection over here. If you start putting them going this way and then going this way, and if you try to grab more than one of these at a time and you change, they may go different directions. They may slope in different directions if you need them to do that. So by keeping them going in the same direction is very helpful. So we'll go back to structure, go to beam, and I want to go downward. I'm going to go downward and then go downward. And now we have beams. So I'm going to do some plan steel here in two different reasons. I'm going to do one side that's going to have X bracing, and I'm going to do the other side that has like framing, for framing out of openings or whatever, or extra support for grading something. So I'm going to go over here to beam, and I want to set this for a WT7. I want to turn 3D snapping on. Now if I go over to here, see I do not want it to connect here. I want to hit tab, tab. I want it to connect to the end point of that beam that's highlighted blue. This is what I want. Now I click here. Now if I come over to here, I do not want it to connect to that 3D point on the column. It's got to be that beam that's running left to right. So I hit tab, tab, right there's what I want. Now I want to come over to here, hit tab, That's what I want. And I want to come up to here, and then I want to hit tab, tab, tab. Right there's what I want. Now, knowing that these are 10-inch beams, we could take these and we can give these a -5-inch offset. The downside is they're both towed down. So if we can grab this one, we can say the cross section needs to have a 180-degree rotation, but because it's rotated, this one here has to be a positive number. And now you have cross bracing here. Again, oversized, I know. I'm just trying to go through how these work. So now in the left bay, I'm going to start adding some channels in here. And that's where you got to watch with the justifications and the location line settings. So if I was to go up to the structure tab and click on beam, and I use a C8. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to put this right in here, and now it's connected. So if I was to locate it from center of column to here, when you're using the stick symbol on a channel, you have to pick the dot. You can't pick this. It'll pick the centroid of it, and that's really not what you want. You want back a channel, but I'll dig into that in a second. You want to pick this location line, and then you want to pick here. So now, if you want this to be 4 feet, right, you think you're good. But when I cut a section, and I go to put the same dimension going from center of column to back a channel to center of column, I don't get those numbers. So then you run into the tug of war. You run into where you make this 4 feet. Then you go to your plan view and you got bad numbers again. How that's corrected is that if you select on this, you make sure that you are left justified. You make sure your stick symbol is set for location line. So now you can see this is still good. You did not change the actual position of it, but if you go back to here, it corrected that dimension. Now if you select any beam, and you'll notice you have a starting level offset and you have an end level offset, and then down here you have a Z offset value. I'll show you the difference between those. So I'm going to add 2 new channels. I'm going to put one here that connects to this, and I want to put one that connects to this. And because they're actually connected, you can see the little cutback on it. If you were to change this to say -2 inches and change this to -2 inches, they're no longer connected. Now if you grab this one here and you give this a -2 inches, they are still connected. If this beam moves, the one that's connected will stretch. This one here, you've just sent the justification line to be 2 inches lower than the justification line of the beam that you're connecting to. Now they are misaligned vertically and will not respond to each other. So if I was to go and cut a section looking this way, I'm going to pull, I don't want to see all that. I just want to see these channels. So now if I right click, go to view, as you can see, I want this one to be towed the other direction. So if I go back to this plan view, I have the ability to flip it. Now if I go back to the section, you can see what happened was it put my justification on the wrong side. So now I got to change this to be right justified, and now I got to adjust accordingly. So again, because the justifications and these need to be location line, you could set that while placing, and then you don't have to do it anymore. That's what I typically would do for that. But now if I go from here, center of the column, center of the beam, to here, and then if I go to center of this beam, I can grab this, I can make this be 4.6. I can grab this one, make this 4.6. Now if I go back to my plan view, and if I was to try to dimension these, I'm going to get the exact same numbers. And then typically if I put in horizontal bracing, I'll go over and I will change its usage to horizontal bracing. And as you can see, the view template here is set to hide it. So what you can do is you can go to your structural plan, overrides. We'll go down to structural framing, and if you expand that, you could see where the horizontal bracing, you can give it any kind of appearance. You can make it dash line, thicker, thinner, whatever you want. So now if we go back, it is now visible and it has a different appearance. You can change this also under the Manage tab, and you go to Object Styles. And if you go down to your structural framing, you can go to horizontal bracing and you can change it here. So you don't have to change it in all your view templates. Be sure to check out my short videos on the beam system tool and the bracing tool. They'll be getting posted here shortly. I'll also be recording a follow-up video soon that covers sloped steel systems. Thank you for watching my video. Make sure to like and subscribe. There will be a lot more videos coming.